Hello, teachers, and thank you so much for joining this live streamed community event on the Teaching English Facebook page, brought to you by the British Council. Today, we're going to be talking about top-down versus bottom-up in terms of processing for our learners. And to help us, we have Samantha Alfaro to guide us through some activity ideas. How are you today, Samantha?
Hi, Marcus. I'm fine, thank you. And you?
I'm very well, thank you. Teachers, my name is Marcus James. I'm part of the Teaching English team here at the British Council. This is a live and interactive conversation, so please do join in. Use the live chat on your mobile device or laptop to ask us questions or to contribute some activity ideas as we go along. So, Samantha, firstly, obviously, the terminology that we're talking about today, top down, bottom up, essentially, what does it refer to and what's the difference?
Yes, well, I first heard these concepts back in the days when I was a teacher, just a teacher trainee. And I remember that my professors told me, okay, top down, it goes from the general to the particular details, and then bottom up. On the contrary, it goes from the particular to the very general details, but this in very simple words. So if we want to look at the definition, it's like, but with top down, basically students are going to use their background knowledge to predict the meaning of the language. That means that they are going to use, they are going to see the context in which words are used. And then with bottom up, it basically focuses only on individual words and phrases, and then students have to build up. They have to learn these words and phrases so they kind of string all of this together. So that's basically the difference between one and another.
Okay, so I mean, we've got the two different types of processes. I mean, in a real life situation, what do we tend to do the most when we're kind of
Yeah.
listening for information?
For example, well, I would say like this is from my experience, right? And if I'm going to use, for example, the bottom-up approach, let's say the past simple, okay? So first of all, the first thing that I do when we're learning past simple, especially with beginners, is that first we're going to learn about the simple past verbs because usually this is the first time that they are looking at this, so they have no clue about how the past simple works. So the first thing that I do is to learn the regular and irregular verbs. After that, it comes like the comprehensible input because this is very important. What I do is that I like to give examples to my students, and the way I do it is that either I use a storytelling or also TPR. Like I'm showing the flashcards, I'm showing some flashcards on, I'm using my body. Like for example, I washed my face, so I do this. Okay, so I use mimics and gestures to exemplify this. And another important thing is that it's also after they have learned the vocabulary and also they have learned the examples, then it comes just to practice. This is very important to me because as beginners, they cannot produce yet. So they cannot produce language. So it's very important that we practice. We practice the grammar in many different ways.
Love that. And our very first question has come through from Bualam. I think referring to the top down there, is it related to learning through scaffolding? I mean, essentially it is, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Especially because in bottom up, I think it needs to respect also the process of language acquisition as well. And also, students need a lot of control practice, especially in writing and speaking, because as I said, they cannot produce language yet as such. So they need a lot of scaffolding.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that
Mhm.
question,
Yeah.
Bualam. And teachers watching, if you do have any questions about top down, bottom up processing for reading activities, listening activities, do pop them in the live chat. I can see we've got a few teachers joining us already, as well as Bualam. We've got Raja in Algeria and Shobha Sharma, I'm not sure where you're watching from, up here in Thailand as well. Do let us know where you're watching from. We've clearly got a global audience. Samantha, you're in Mexico, right?
Yes, yes, from the
Okay.
southern part of Mexico.
All right. So tell us about your
Yeah.
classes.
Well, I teach both English and German, and I teach adults. Well, basically for any 18-year-old, and but I also taught children as well and teenagers.
Okay. Oh, it's a good mix. Okay, so in terms of, you mentioned before about sort of beginners, and while I'm sort of asking about scaffolding then. So when we're sort of preparing for a listening activity then, so what might be some of the things we could do to help our learners feel more confident about the listening task?
Well, actually, before doing any listening activity, what I do is to review and revise vocabulary. I think this is very important to understand most of the audios that, for example, we're going to practice. So let's say for the present simple. Okay, so if we're going to listen to any audio about the day about someone's daily routine, what I do is that first I need to check the transcript. I check the audio as such, so to see with what kind of vocabulary they are going to listen. And then after I have listened to the audio, what I do is that I teach this vocabulary as well. But actually, as I said, the most important step before they do any listening task is to prepare them for what they're going to hear. Of course, there are other techniques like they can predict what they're going to listen to, what they're going to hear. But I think the most important one, in my experience, for example, is that when they revise this vocabulary, when they already know about this, is when they listen even better.
Love that. Yes. I mean, the thing, I mean, it can be very scary, when you're a beginner language learner,
Yeah.
to have a listening task. And
Yes.
you see the kind of the panic expression in students' faces. But obviously, the more you can prepare them, especially, I love that tip there about looking through the tape script, looking at also all the vocabulary that they're likely to need in order to sort of get the
Yes.
most out of that listening activity. Teachers watching, how do you prepare your learners for a listening activity? Do you go through the tape script like Samantha does? Do you prepare them and scaffold before they do the listening activity? Do let us know in the live chat. We've got plenty more teachers joining us. I can see we've got Alpha in Guinea. I'm not sure how to pronounce, from Ukraine, sorry, Blarina, and Saad in Algeria. Okay, excellent. So we've talked quite a bit about sort of scaffolding and helping the lower level learners with a kind of more top-down approach. What's about the opposite, the sort of the bottom-up approach? When might we sort of use that, and what type of students might we use that?
Well, I would like to ask a question to the audience first. Like, taking into account the bottom up and top down approach, which one do you think it works better for beginners? Or which one do you think it works better for more proficient students, intermediate, advanced students? I would like to know that. But before I answer the question,
Okay, I'm just going to type that in the live chat now. Top down or
yes.
bottom up. All right. Okay, so let's pop that in the live chat. I'm going to pin that comment as well, so we'll see what teachers have to say about that.
Yeah.
I got a question here from
Oh,
Raja. Do you check learners' prerequisites? What if you're while preparing then you find a lot of shortcomings or degrees of prior knowledge.
Well, yes, this is an interesting question because usually in Mexico we have mixed classes. And for example, I have students that even they're in A1 level, but they actually have an A2 level. So they, and actually also another important thing is that there are students who are very good at memorizing everything very quickly. So basically in one class they have learned everything, and I have some others that they need revision. So I always, what I try to do is that I have like extra exercises for those who finish very quickly as well, because yes, like if I plan an activity like to last maybe 10 minutes and this student just finish in maybe 2, okay, so I always have another plan, like, okay, please, if you had finished, then I give you this another exercise. But yes, for example, if it's the first class, I usually what I do is like an assessment in the very first class, so I can check how is their level, either in speaking, in grammar, and vocabulary. But for example, for absolute beginners, like when they have a 0 level, you just need to get to know your students while the semester goes by or the year goes by as well. So when they're absolute beginners, this is like pretty difficult because at the end of the semester, you're going to see the results of who learn maybe a bit more than another one. I don't know if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your question there, Raja, and your response, Samantha. Boalam's got a question here as well. How can we better ensure that our learners have really progressed? Is it through doing well in speaking and writing only? Okay, the question is slightly removed from what we're talking about today, but if we are scaffolding and if we are sort of quite heavy on the top-down processing, how do we really know that our learners are sort of making progress, or that we've sort of almost given them all the information already?
Wow, this is a pretty difficult, or maybe pretty difficult question because I'm still reflecting about it. Like, how do I really know that my learners have progressed? But for example, I have like kind of some like clues about it. Like for example, when learners are like speaking for in a speaking task, so when they're speaking, they usually they stop to think about what they say. For example, if they want to use the past simple, they usually use the present one. At least this is the mistake I always check with the Spanish learners, and I think this is in general. Like if they want to say, "Oh, I did my homework," they usually say, "I do my homework." So with these students, sometimes they stop to think about the structure they have set, so they kind of self monitor their mistake, and then they correct it, and they, oh no, it wasn't I do, it was I did. Okay, and that's how I know that they are kind of taking the knowledge of this, they're kind of acquiring, because this is another important thing, the difference between learn and acquire. And then another one that I, how do I know that my learners have progressed, is that when they start using the structure effortlessly. So I would say that it's not only about it speaking and writing, because like in language, I mean in language learning, we have so many skills. Like for example, some students are very good at reading, some others might be very good at listening. So we need to take, sadly we need to take into account many variables. But for example, if I have to say one single answer, I would say how they do well, for example, in reading, at least for beginners. Why? Because they are like, they're, as I said in the beginning, I'm going to repeat this a lot of time, they cannot produce language yet. So the best way to ensure that our students have progressed is how well they are like comprehending maybe a text, like the passive skills.
Absolutely. Love that. So we've got a response to our question then. So thinking about top down and bottom up, low level and higher level, which is best suited. Nguyen, top down, sort of in general, because I need to hype them up before the lesson. And I think that is one of the sort of key benefits of top down, isn't it? It is making the learners as comfortable as possible with a task, especially as listening, where you kind of can't control the speed. You know, in a reading, obviously you can reread, you can go back, but in listening, you've only got that one or two opportunities to kind of catch that important information. Love that. A question here from Salah. Should slower learners always be given priority when designing the lesson plan for the class they belong to? And I think, again, it's moving away slightly from the topic of the conversation, but I think we can connect it, can't we? You know, a lot of the activities that we do to prepare our learners for listening and for reading activities. Who is in your mind when you're planning those activities, Samantha? Is it the lower sort of the lower students or the higher, or do you sort of try to differentiate?
Well, I'm going to be completely honest, and I think when I'm planning a lesson, I always have in mind the slow learners, because I think I'm they worry the most about them. But something I have learned to do as well is that revision and reviews are very important. Like, and also, um, what I do is that a space revision or a space repetition. Something that I have learned from a teacher, and I never forgotten this, is that you must repeat but not be repetitive. That means that you have to kind of repeat the vocabulary, recycle in a kind of a cycle as well. But also don't be repetitive. That means that you have to use different activities, like either games, you you can use maybe songs, poems as well. Graded readers are also a good source for comprehensible input. So I'm not gonna lie, maybe I'm a bit biased for slow learners, but as I said, like I have the students that they're very good at memorizing and they learn very quickly. So I really get worried about the slow learners, but that's why I also try to do revisions as much as possible, even though we had finished this topic maybe at the end of the semester, in the middle of the semester as well. Well, or if you're teaching maybe a primary school, and maybe every 2 months make a revision about either the present simple, about prepositions, about any topic that you're teaching.
Love that. Thank you so much. I got another response here to our question regarding sort of top down, bottom up, high level, lower level. Raja says, I use both. With beginners, it's more practical to use bottom up, but with older learners, both ways are good. We sometimes need to start with a whole and then cut it down to be easier to
Yeah.
analyze it.
Yes.
Den asks, which of these concepts should be prioritized by teachers if we train? So if our learners are preparing for a standardized exam, such as the Cambridge or IELTS, those type of exams, top down or bottom up? If we're sort of doing exam preparation.
Well, I would say both, definitely. I mean, we don't have to prioritize one for another. Like, for example, students need to understand the general idea of the text, and that is top down. They need to search for the general idea. And then, like, for example, skimming, they need to learn this skill. It's very important when they are preparing for an exam like Cambridge. And also, when it might depend on the task as well. If they're going to search for details, then they have to prepare for button up, to search for these little details. And usually I would say that when you have to search for details in a reading task or a listening task, I have seen that these are the type of tasks that learners have more difficulties So I would say that it might depend of the task they are going to do. If the task is about looking for the general idea or the general concept, then top down. If then the task is about looking for these details, then go for bottom up.
Actually, that's a very, very good point. You mentioned, I think you hit the nail on the head there. I think most of the standardized exams do have a mix of reading and listening tasks that
Yes,
rely on those different approaches, as is real life, isn't it?
yes, exactly.
Okay. Um, Okay, I'm sort of looking through the so many comments that we've got from teachers. As I try to find a meaty question, Samantha, you recently gave a webinar presentation to celebrate World Teachers' Day on teaching English, didn't you? What was it about?
It was about clip chat, or also known as movie talk. This activity is about watching a video, and instead of focusing on the dialogues, you are going to focus on what is visible on the screen. So, depending on what you see on the screen, you are going to ask questions. For example, if a movie scene is about two girls having dinner, then you're going to ask, "Oh, what are the girls doing? What time do you think it is?" Or maybe you can ask more personalized questions um, like, "What do you have for dinner?" For example. And if I have to put this activity in one of these two approaches, I would say that I would put it in the bottom up approach. Because what I do, oh, well, it might depend on the teacher, but what I do is that first, as I said, I have to teach the details, so the vocabulary. So I watch, it's like the listening task. I watch the video, and then, okay, this is the type of vocabulary they might use. If they don't know, for example, how to say have dinner, okay, I think I'm going to teach this. If they don't know maybe the vocabulary about, don't know, about food, for example, then I'm going to try to teach this. Okay, so I teach this vocabulary first, and then I ask the questions, we watch the video, and we do the activity.
Okay, that's good. I think you touched on something there then. So when we're thinking about these two approaches in our sort of lesson planning, what criteria do you apply when deciding whether to go sort of top down or bottom up? Does it depend on the listening or the reading text, on the task, or the level of the students?
Well, these three, I would say the level of the students, especially if they are like more intermediate or advanced students. This is where I use the top down approach, because I think they're more analytical, they're more sensitive to the language, so they can predict easily the meaning of it. So if I have to teach, an intermediate class, for example, we don't see the details like the vocabulary or anything. So I go with a text. Sometimes we watch maybe the scene of a movie, like to kind of introduce the topic that we're going to see. And if it's beginners, well, what I usually do, I go for bottom up. This is my take.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I think teachers who are watching are very keen to sort of discover more about these two different approaches. So could you give us like a practical example of an activity that might be top down and one that might be bottom up?
Okay. Well, for button up, for example, the first thing, I'm going to maybe put the example of the past simple. So what I usually do is that I teach them how to make the verbs in past, and we do this through games. So one of my favorite games, for example, is tic tac toe. So, for example, for regular verbs, this is a bit easier. So, for example, I make two teams, and then these two teams, I have a grid for the tic tac toe, and for example, we put nine birds on this grid. So this is like I don't know. I'm trying to think of the regular verb, sorry, play, for example. And then what I do is that I usually put the verbs in past already. Okay, played, I don't know, I'm thinking about watched, for example, and then they just have to tell me the present. And this is a way to introduce the past. Because as I said, you have to put the verbs in past because they don't know about them. Another thing is that it's like a kind of a competition. Like I put some flashcards on the floor. Okay, they have, for example, the verbs already in past, and what they have to do is that they have to repeat them and go to the next side. I mean, this is like a competition, like a race, and the first one that goes to the next point of the line, it's the winner. But as I said, I mean, I make a lot of games to practice the vocabulary. And then for the top down, on the contrary, what I do is that, as I said, I'm going to be a bit repetitive, but I usually show a text. And this text, it might depend on which topic we're learning. For example, if we're learning about past perfect, then I'm going to use maybe the biography of someone, or maybe an interesting trip or any story. And then, for example, at the end, it could be more like a reading comprehension task, sorry, a reading comprehension task. Like, for example, you can use true or false, or maybe you can discuss the text as well. And another thing is that they can highlight, you can ask your students to highlight the parts where you can see the grammar or maybe the vocabulary.
That's very helpful. Thank you so much for explaining that with some practical examples, Samantha. You've got a lot of energy for first thing in the morning in Mexico at 9 o'clock, I must admit. Okay, a quick comment from Raja that, yeah, spot on. How do you decide which is appropriate? And what do you do with writing? And I think you touched on that there. If you're doing a reading or a listening that is building up to a writing activity, then of course you're going to be much more sort of bottom up, much more analytical of the structures and the sort of the layout and the vocabulary and the grammatical structures, so that you can take that into your own writing. Do love that. Earlier on, we responded to a question from Dan. He says they say thanks for your response.
Oh, thank you.
Excellent. We're not sure how we can respond really to Bolam's question here. Are there any new techniques to boost the use of what we're talking about, the concepts, top down, bottom up, or do you keep applying the same approach? So I think when we talk about top down, we've all used those course books that have recommended that you show the students the title and you elicit what they predict. You show them a picture that goes with it, and we sort of look at that to kind of get them thinking about the concept. Are there any other things that we might do in terms of sort of top down and bottom up, apart from the examples that you've given? Like the top down, I think we all kind of tackle it in the same way, don't we? Is there anything else we might do?
Yes, I mean, top down and bottom up are only their approaches, and the way you're going to use them might depend on your teaching style. I mean, and what is best for your learners as well. You need to take into account these variables. Are they slow learners? Are they fast learners? The age, probably, which age group, etc. And also the background knowledge. And sometimes, for example, I don't have any experience with multicultural classrooms, but I think you need to take into account this, which approach might be more suitable for this type of with this type of classrooms. So yes, the techniques and that you're going to use depend entirely on you. You want to use fill in the blanks, you want to use any game, etc.
Excellent. Samantha, some great news. I was running a poll just to sort of find out from the live audience in the final few minutes about how useful they found this session, and 100% said yes.
Oh, nice.
That's
Thank you so
fantastic.
much.
That's really great. Thank you, teachers, for joining in the discussion and the interactive poll there. Samantha, 30 minutes have just gone like that. Can you believe it?
Yes, exactly. Yes,
Excellent.
absolutely.
Teachers,
I enjoyed it.
well, I've enjoyed it as well. I think we've learned, certainly all the teachers who are watching, we've learned an awful lot about the difference in processing approaches and what type of activities we can do, and for what type of learners as well. Samantha, thank you so much for joining us first thing in the morning from Mexico. We do appreciate it. It's been very, very useful for the community.
No, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here once again, and thank you, the audience, for participating.
And thank you, teachers, for joining the conversation. Conversation hasn't stopped, though. Do continue contributing to the discussion. We'll be moderating the comments and responding in due course. But until next time, bye-bye.
Bye bye.